From the time of Constantine onward, the Bible has been the canonical, the standard text that informed religious, civic, and even scientific ideas throughout Europe, North and South America, and around the world. So love it or hate it, believe it or doubt it, take it literally or figuratively, there's no doubt the Bible casts a huge shadow. It is an influential book right up to the very present day. So today on The History of Being Human, we're going to go through what the Bible says. This episode will be the first 2,000 years, and we're just going to talk about what the Bible says without any theological overlay. Bible in Latin just means books, and books there are 66 books written by over 40 authors. If you're Roman Catholic, there are 73 books. They were written over a period of 1,000 to 2,000 years. They were written on scrolls separately and not bound into the same volume that we now understand the Bible to be until about 400 AD. Now, the Bible consists of the Old Testament, which is written in Hebrew, which deals with the beginnings and the history of the Jewish people. That's simply called the Hebrew Bible, because, of course, in Judaism, there is no New Testament, so there's no Old Testament. There's just the Bible. The New Testament, as it is called in the Christian Bible, is all about the life and the followers of Jesus of Nazareth. That's written in Greek. The Old Testament is very much a book about a certain small group of people in a limited geography in the Near East. The New Testament spreads out a little beyond that area into Anatolia, which is modern Turkey, Greece, and Rome. But we still have to admit, it's a limited geography and a limited population that the Bible is written by and about. It was only long after the times of the writing of the Bible that it became authoritative on several continents. So today, let's begin with the story of Genesis in the Old Testament and go through a couple thousand years. Genesis means beginnings, and this is how the Bible begins. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. When God created the heavens and the earth was complete chaos, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then follows a narrative of the 6 days of creation. Day 1, day and night are created. Day 2, something we're not familiar with, a dome, a huge dome that held up the waters in the sky from the waters on the earth, and it was solid, and this dome could be opened to let the water fall down onto the earth. That's how the ancients saw the sky. Now, day 3, the land was separated from the sea, and plants appear. Day 4, God places lots of tiny little lights and 2 big lights, the sun and the moon, the big light for the day and the little light for the night, into this dome. And what are they for? They are for markers, for seasons and days and times. So that's day 4. Day 5, God creates sea monsters, birds, and fish. Day 6, there are the ground-bound animals, cattle, creeping things. So Jared from Subway and Andrew Tate created on day 6. And at the end of the 6th day, God says, let's make humans in our own image. Let's make them look like God. Then on day 7, God rests. And it said that henceforth and forever, day 7 will be set apart by God as a day of rest. Now, what's not to like about that? Strangely enough, in chapter 2 of Genesis, we have a completely different creation account. Genesis chapter 2 is not the same creation account as chapter 1. And in this account, before there were any plants, before there was any vegetation, God created a man, as in a male. And his name was Adam, and that means man in Hebrew. But Adam is also a play on the word dirt in Hebrew, which is Adama. So man, Adam, came from dirt, Adama. God breathed into this pile of dirt the breath of life, and it became a living being. God planted a garden in Eden, which was full of every good plant, and he put this man in it. This garden was in Mesopotamia, the headwaters of the Tigris and Euphrates River, which used to have a lot of water in them. God told the man to till the ground, take good care of the garden, but God realized it wasn't good for this man to be alone. And we have to admit, men tend to spontaneously implode when left to their own devices. So God decided to make a mate for the man. And this is when he made all the animals and the birds and paraded them in front of the man, told him to name them. And apparently man was not satisfied with any of them as a partner. Pheasant, not so much. Wolverine, no thank you. So God made the man fall asleep. He took a rib out of the man's side and made something called a woman, which in Hebrew is just the feminine form of the word man. So you see in the Hebrew Bible, man comes first, and woman is created as a helper for this man. Now there were 2 trees in the garden. One was the tree of life, which they could eat from freely. The other tree was called the tree of knowledge, and not just any knowledge. It wasn't the knowledge of facts, like how many angels can you dance on the head of a pin. No, it was knowledge of good and evil. That was a godlike power. The wombat, the platypus, they didn't have this power. Only the gods knew good from evil. Unfortunately, in this garden, there was also a very crafty animal called the serpent. Now, this was a snake. It wasn't Satan in the Old Testament. It was a snake. The snake told Eve that she would get great powers if she ate the fruit of the tree. So Eve ate it, and she gave it to Adam. Now, this decision to eat the fruit, made by a pair who, according to the Bible itself, had no idea what was good and what was evil, led to a round of cursings from God. He started with the snake. To the snake he said, "You're going to slither around on your belly and eat dirt all your life, and everyone will hate you and they will stomp on your head while you snap and bite at their heels." And yes, humans do fear and hate snakes right up to the present time. It's an innate trait that we have. Now, Eve was next. For Eve, she was cursed to have children with a huge head to birth canal diameter ratio, because childbirth was going to be a very painful process and sorrowful for her. And even though it would be so painful, she would still desire her husband, and she would be subject. Her husband would rule over her. Hence the resistance to epidurals in some fundamentalist sects, and the firmly entrenched, biblically based Judeo-Christian patriarchy. But lest you think the man got off too easily, he was cursed also. Your life will be hard work, and then you will die. These seem to be disproportionate punishments. You could make that argument. And not only was the punishment harsh, it turns out the serpent was right. God himself says so. Man has become like one of us, knowing good from evil. So we better make sure he dies. So God expels man and woman from the garden, puts an angel with a flaming sword in the way, so that people cannot eat the fruit of the tree of life and live forever. And that is what is called by Christians the fall of Adam, because Adam was in a great place. He had it all. Life was easy. They were innocent. And he did something that God's told him not to do and ended up sweating and toiling and dying. Now, once Adam and Eve are kicked out of the garden, they have children. Cain becomes a farmer of vegetables and Abel raises flocks. They both wanted to give a gift to God, so they brought their wares as an offering. Cain brought fruits of the ground and Abel brought fatty pieces of dead sheep. God liked the dead animal fat much better than the fruit. In fact, it was his favorite thing, and that's a very stable character trait. This is just the first of many times we learn how much the God of the Hebrews loves dead animal fat. So Cain is jealous that he liked Abel's offering better. He's so mad, in fact, that he kills his brother Abel. Not that he really could have known what killing meant. This would be the first death in history, according to the Bible. God finds out about it and curses Cain. He tells Cain that he's going to be a wanderer and a fugitive in the earth, which doesn't seem to happen because in the next sentence we find that Cain is settling down comfortably in the land of Nod and starting to build a nice city. But Cain worries that everybody who sees him will hate him and want to kill him, want him dead. So God sets a mark on Cain, we're told. Now this mark was referred to by some Southerners and others as a rationalization for enslaving people of African descent, the so-called curse of Cain. But that's 180 degrees from what the Bible says, because the Bible says the mark is one of protection. Don't kill this guy, or you will get back 7 times as bad. Of course, how you kill someone 7 times is not made clear. The point is, the mark on Cain is a mark of protection, not a curse. The Bible then goes through a list of many ancient descendants of Adam and Eve, and they are prodigiously long-lived. Adam lives 930 years, Seth 912 years, Enosh 905 years, and so it goes, including the champion of long life in the Bible, who is Methuselah. We're told he lives 969 years. And not only did they live a long time, they were virile a long time. Noah himself has not one but 3 sons at the age of 500 years old. Now, in chapter 6 of Genesis, God is getting tired of the humans. They're multiplying a lot, and God says, look, these are creatures made of meat, and I'm not going to keep them alive forever. So from now on, they're only going to live 120 years. No more of these 900-year lifespans. But God realizes humans are not just made of meat. They're just a bunch of little perverts and criminals, and all they think about all day is violence. The whole earth is full of violence because of these things I made. This is so upsetting to God that he has regret. He wishes he never made humans. He decides to wipe them off the face of the earth. And not just humans. He decides to wipe out all life, people, together with animals, creeping things, birds of the air, as it says. There's only one person who is going to be spared this fate, and that is Noah, and by extension, his family. So God tells Noah he's going to flood the entire earth and drown everything. So Noah needs to build an ark. Now, an ark is a box, kind of like a footlocker. This is one giant footlocker like no other in history. It will be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet tall, 3 floors high, and it will be coated in resin. He then tells Noah to get 2 of all the nasty animals and 14 of all the clean animals and put them in the ark. By the time Noah finishes this project, he's 600 years old. He loads up the ark and a total of 8 people. Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives. That's when God makes that great big dome in the sky, open up its windows, and all the water pours from the dome down onto the earth. The fountains under the earth are also opened up, and the water pours up. Water pouring down, water pouring up. The whole earth is flooded. Everything, everybody, every animal, every creeping thing drowns. There's so much water that the mountains are covered 22 feet deep. So over Mount Everest, that means we'd be almost at 30,000 feet. Now, Noah and his family did not have to be Sherpas who could float around for a month at 30,000 feet without the aid of supplemental oxygen, because of course the oxygen sat on top of the water. But everything on land that lived died. Men, women, children, all the animals. After several months, the water receded. Noah and his family got out on Mount Ararat and started to spread around. And God says to Noah, you know what? People are so awful that I'm never going to destroy them again. Before the flood, he says, they're so awful, I'm going to destroy them all. After the flood, he says, people are awful and I'm never going to destroy them again. And as proof that I'm never going to destroy them again, I'm going to put my bow in the cloud, the sign of the rainbow, sign of the Noahic covenant, as it is called, that God would never destroy all mankind from the earth again. And not only that, humans are awesome. Every animal is going to be afraid of you. And if you kill one another, you have to be killed. Noah then becomes a farmer, plants a vineyard, grows some grapes, makes wine, and gets drunk. He passes out naked in his tent. One of his sons, Ham, sees Noah naked in his tent and goes and tells his brothers. The brothers refuse to see Noah naked in the tent. They back up, cover him up. When Noah finds out that Ham has seen him naked, he curses, for some reason, not Ham, the one who saw him naked, but Ham's son, Canaan. So from then on, Canaan is going to be cursed and a slave of slaves, which also is used, unfortunately, as a rationalization for the slavery of African Americans. After this episode, Noah's children, all the people, begin to spread around a little, and all of them speak the same language. As they spread eastward, they find a beautiful plain in Shinar, which is ancient Babylon, modern Iraq, which is just right for the building of a city, and not just a city, but a great tower. So they get bricks and tar and decide to build a tower that will reach all the way to that dome that covers the sky. God comes down and kind of sees what's going on, and he says, if all these people speak the same language, they'll be able to do everything. And of course, we can't have that. So God says, let's mix up their language so they can't understand each other. That will stop them, because when they ask for brick, they'll be handed a falafel. And that works. The tower fails. The city is canceled. The place is called Babel after that, and people are spread all over the world. It's called Babel because of Bab-elim, which means the gate of God. Sounds a lot like the Hebrew word balal, which means confusion. And that, according to the Bible, is where the plurality of human languages began. And that's also why we say someone is babbling when we don't understand them. So that, in a nutshell, is about the first 2,000 years of Bible chronology. And so far, I have to admit, it's a pretty raucous collection of stories, full of rambunctious characters, and the most rambunctious character of all is the protagonist of the story. You might notice it's refreshingly free of any useful life lessons and pretty much amoral. On the next episode, we'll enter what's called the Age of the Patriarchs.